what I'm going to do today is stick more or less to the questions that were posed to me, which is what are the major attempts at finding regional solution to the challenges in Afghanistan, how useful they are, and what are the contours of ideal regional dialogue process. I'll stray a bit because a lot of these things have been dealt with in the previous session as well. See, the key issues that dominate the current Afghanistan debate are the current security situation, and linked to it the nature of the US withdrawal and the size of its residual force, the 2014 presidential election, and the negotiations with the Taliban. In each case, there is a formal level where actions and statements are taking place in a kind of an open plane, while there is also another level where things are happening beneath the surface in all these areas. But what we are not able to see is how all these dots really connect and where are they leading us. Because almost everyone says that after 2014 you see everything looks very hazy. And though we know that all these things are happening, we don't know which direction they're going and who's leading what and where we are heading. See, ideally what we do need, and I think everyone would accept this, that there is a reconciliation process which is needed in Afghanistan, which would then lead to credible elections and a withdrawal. But what we are seeing is that we are getting elections, negotiations, and withdrawal occurring all at the same time. This is a major problem because each is kicking back into the other. Now, what is clear today is that the US and the ISAF have lost the will to fight, and with the withdrawal announced, they are more or less marking time. Increasingly, the combat is being carried out by the Afghan National Security Forces, and they're losing something like 400 persons per month. It's a pretty substantive casualty figure. There are gaps in the Afghan capabilities. The ISAF provides support still, assistance, but there are large gaps at the management level. The Ministries of Defense, Ministry of Interiors, the Afghans lack not just the issue of air power or artillery, but also how to manage contracts, how to payroll, logistics, planning, intelligence, reconnaissance. All this is kind of absent. The US, of course, claims that it is transitioning in Afghanistan, not leaving, and that enduring freedom is actually, which will end in 2014, but then to become Operation Resolute Support to train, advise, and the ANSF under the NATO umbrella. But as we have seen, even now, the US is toying with the idea of the zero option, and I really would not be surprised if it does come down to the zero option at the end of the day. Now it's clear that the Taliban insurgency of today is very different from the outfit that took power in Afghanistan in the late 1990s. Since 2001, the insurgency has been decentralized and is loosely aligned group of anti-government entities. You can have Gulbuddin Hekmatyar, Hizb-e-Islami, the Haqqani Network, Al-Qaeda and its affiliates, and of course the Taliban itself, which is divided into what some people say the Quetta Shura, the Peshawar Shura, where there are some younger radicals. But one thing is very clear, that the people who are operating, all of them, in some sense, are not controlled by Pakistan, but are under the influence of Pakistan because they need sanctuary in Pakistan. Now, as far as talking to the Taliban is concerned, since 2006, various partners of ISAF in Afghanistan as well as Pakistan and Saudi Arabia have pursued a dialogue with Taliban figures. However, none of those efforts bore any tangible results. We also had that episode where the British got some shopkeeper in Quetta, and he said that I'm a senior mullah, and there were talks were held. The main problem, of course, was finding individuals who could speak with authority and say that I'm mullah or representative or whatever it is. There were, of course, other issues that the ISAF wanted Taliban to break publicly with the Al-Qaeda, while the Taliban wanted the withdrawal of all the foreign forces. Now, the Doha process indicates that that problem of finding people has been overcome. We do have state. It's not an accident, however, that the US and NATO have virtually abandoned all their conditionality. Today, it's very clear that the issue is no longer democracy, the issue is no longer human rights, the issue is no longer modernization of Afghanistan. The issue is we have to withdraw. If we have to withdraw, how do we withdraw in good order? And if we have to withdraw in good order, if we have to go hat in hand to Pakistan, we will go to hat in hand to Pakistan. If we have deal with Mullah Omar, we will deal with Mullah Omar, and I suspect we have to deal with Jalaluddin Haqqani, we'll go deal with him as well. So the Western powers look at it in a very realpolitik kind of fashion. Now, many people in Pakistan as well as the US have argued that Taliban, there's good Taliban, bad Taliban, that some of them are social ultra-conservatives who want the rule of the Sharia, and then there are jihadists who have a regional and global agenda. But there are, and of course there are the people like Gulbuddin Hekmatyar and Haqqanis who defy categorization. In the past 3 years, there have been several efforts at regional solutions. They've had these big conferences in Bonn, Istanbul, Chicago, Tokyo, Almaty, Dushanbe, Islamabad, New Delhi, involving Afghanistan and its neighbors and aid donors as well as well-wishers. The prime focus of this regionalism, as we have been discussed earlier, was the need to integrate Afghanistan into its neighborhood. And it assumed that such interconnectivity and interdependence would prevent regional meddling in the internal affairs of Afghanistan. We had this several processes which I've listed: the Istanbul process on regional security and cooperation for a secure and stable Afghanistan. It began in November 2011. The role of the Turks, who have been having a trilateral dialogue as well as pushing this meeting. And then we've had this Heart of Asia ministerial conferences that have been taken place. And then sandwiched between them is the Regional Economic Cooperation Conference on Afghanistan, the RECA, which was held in Kabul in 2005, Delhi 2006, Islamabad 2009, Istanbul 2010, and Dushanbe in 2012. Now, the third ministerial conference on the Istanbul, I'm talking of the recent processes, took place in Kazakhstan in April this year. And there were, people from 50 different delegations and lots of talk of confidence building, etc., etc., etc. See, but all this is at the formal level. Beneath the surface, you can discern some 7 different sets of opinions. You have Pakistan, which insists that India has no role and requires that Afghanistan that is free from the Indian tilt. This position was largely supported by Turkey and silently by Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Then you have the European Union, notably Germany and the Netherlands and the UK less publicly, which encourage greater cooperation between India and Pakistan as a means of finding a solution to Afghanistan. The US has come around, that's number 3, has come around to a regional solution which gives primacy to Pakistan without quite acknowledging it. And Doha process is part of this. And fourth, you have India's position, which opposes talks with Afghanistan and strongly advocates that Iran should be a part of a regional solution. And then you have Iran's position itself, which says that no solution in Afghanistan can take place without its interest being taken on board. And I think there's a very relevant issue because Iran shares a large border with Afghanistan, and Iran also suffers from the consequences of heroin export from Afghanistan. Then you have the Russia and the CIS state, which want to strengthen the government in Kabul and ensure there's no spillover, of the Afghan conflict into Central Asia. But their overall perspective on the Kabul government is pessimistic. And you have China, which wants to insulate itself in Xinjiang from radicalism, but they've not really indicated very clearly what they're really for. However, it should be very clear that such initiatives can only work if progress is made on the country's internal peace process. But none of the initiatives to date have been able to initiate meaningful negotiations, nor has it been possible to reach lasting agreements on representatives, mediators, topics, and procedures. None of this has happened till now, and we've seen that the Doha process is also currently stuck up. Numerous actors have already been involved in exploratory talks. There have been lots of exploratory talks, none going anywhere. We also have, of course, in the last session it was discussed the question of the larger integration process involving Afghanistan, Pakistan, South Asia, and I think this is an important aspect because Pakistan and Afghanistan are both members of the SAARC, and so is India. And I think that the only long-term solution from the economic point of view, because Central Asia is resource-rich, but there are no markets there. You're really talking of a South Asian integration and economic integration, which can help the economies of all these countries together. Now, the contours of an ideal regional dialogue process can be determined only after there is agreement on the shape of the political dispensation in the country, because that's a big issue. We don't know what the political dispensation will be. And as you can see, there are three options. One is that we recognize the current government in Afghanistan as the legitimate one and say, well, this is the government, Karzai, where he's going to leave next year. This government is the Kabul government. Number two, we say, let's call for its replacement by the Taliban coming. And number three is negotiate the entry into the Taliban into the current system in Kabul, which of course is easier said than done, because it's a moot point as to whether the Taliban, who are hostile, whose views on minorities and women are, as everyone said, almost a millennia old, can really integrate into this modern government system. The big issue, however, is that this, as I pointed out at the outset, that this withdrawal, elections, reconciliation, dialogue are all occurring together, and all of them have the potential of greatly affecting the others. Meaning each one of them, meaning whether the dialogue fails, if the reconciliation fails, if the withdrawal, something goes wrong with that, each of them have the potential of affecting each other fatally. And this really, to my mind, is a really big problem. Finally, of course, I wanted to just make a point on, there was some statement about Afghan-owned process, etc. I recollect that, it was before the Istanbul conference of 2010, there was a trilateral meet between the Pakistan President Asif Ali Zardari, President Karzai, and the host, Turkish President Abdullah Gül. And a statement after that was issued, which said we support the Afghan national process of reconciliation and reintegration in accordance with the Constitution of Afghanistan in a way that is Afghan-led and Afghan-driven. This is a position which Pakistan is committed itself to. This is not something which is being thrust on Pakistan. So I'll just conclude at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Manoj.